I became a Hindu. And it is a very personal journey. You're going to see me put many photos up of me as a child, explaining how I was a very normal British Christian child, and how I then discovered India through meeting my future husband and falling in love with India. At first quite superficially, the food, the colour, but then learning more and more about Hinduism. And so you'll be accompanying me on my journey through Bhakti Yoga, through Gyan Yoga, through Raja Yoga, and finally Karma Yoga. And these are quite, still quite infantile experiences. I've only, been a Hindu for about 3 years now, so I am by no means an expert, and I'm not going to try and do Hinduism the disservice of trying to explain what these mean, these concepts. They are very much, I'm just going to be reflecting on my personal journey, everything that I've been feeling and realizing along the way. So, as you can see, I was brought into a Christian family. I was christened on my mum's side, and my mum's from Denmark. She's a Protestant Christian. On my dad's side, his roots are from Poland, so he's a Catholic. There was a bit of tussle in the family over which way I would be christened. In the end, I was christened a Catholic, but only ever went to Protestant churches, so it's all a bit of a mishmash. Went to the local village school, which was a Church of England school, so we had prayers every morning, grace at lunch, and the priest would visit every Friday. And then growing up, I loved my brothers and sisters. We had a very family-focused type of family. And very, very British upbringing. I think this photo was from the Queen's Jubilee, so we're looking particularly patriotic on that day. But yes, there was no doubt that I felt like a standard British person. And here in my secondary school photo, this was a grammar school that I attended, so not a faith school, but still we would sing carols, so it definitely had a Christian slant to it. Now, I've always been a very hard worker, did very well at school, and then studied physics at Imperial College. I afterwards did a PhD at Oxford, studying statistics, and applied to medical imaging, and that's now the industry, the sector that I now work in. I also did a lot of sport, and I mean a lot of sport, like 3-4 hours a day. So working hard physically and mentally throughout my life, very full life. But in addition to working very hard, I also had a lot of fun. I had a really nice group of friends. I loved playing board games, I still do. I loved going on roller coasters, I still do. I went on one just a few weeks ago. I took my whole company to Chessington World of Adventures. So yes, worked really hard, but had a lot of fun as well. A really full life. I didn't think anything was missing. And then this young man came along, Akshay. Obviously, he's from India. He's been living in the UK 13-14 years now. And we got engaged. And just a week after, it was my first visit to India. And so, some of the things that I absolutely fell in love with on that first trip, palak paneer. So I'm gluten intolerant and soya intolerant and can't have very much dairy, so it's always been really difficult for me to find things that I can eat in the UK because it's bread and pasta and pizzas and all this. But in India, I had no problem at all. Love dal, love palak paneer, love matar paneer, love it all. I obviously love the weather. So much sunshine. I always find it so amazing that when I go to India, everyone is so looking forward to the rains, and I completely understand that, of course. But when I go to India, I don't want the rains, I want the sun, because in the UK, we have enough rain, and the last month, really, we've had enough rain. I loved the colour. I mean, just look and it's the same outfit I'm wearing today, how colourful it is. And that was something that really made a mark on me in India, just how colourful everything is. It's so much energy, life, colour, vibrancy. The people, they are, when we meet up with family and friends, they are singing and dancing. They're not just sitting talking about work. They don't do that at all, actually, thinking about it. They are singing and dancing and enjoying life, having fun. And I know it's a bit cropped off, but one of the things I really noticed is that the word zindagi is infused in so many songs. It's a theme of so many, it's a title in so many films, that India, to me, it celebrates life. And I know that sounds really like quite a small thing to be saying, and you probably all take that for granted, but when you're coming from a place where, I grew up having sandwiches, which gave me a tummy ache all the time, and people would often put, chips or crisps in their sandwiches, so that is the most revolting thing, but that's what many children in the UK eat, where we have rain in the winter and the summer, and where, when you go to work, this is what you see. Everyone is wearing dark blue, black, and dark grey. It's really dull. Yeah, so you can see why I just absolutely fell in love with India. Now, on that first trip to India, where did we go? We went to Kerala. So, a little small game here. Who can tell me where was the first place we went in Kerala? Oh, I think I heard it. Yeah. Kumarakom. Yes, Kumarakom. Yes, so we stayed in the hotel there. We saw the Mohiniyattam dancing, we boated on the lake, we went on the backwaters. Stunning, really, really beautiful. Then where did we go? Munnar, very obvious, yeah. So the tea plantations, we went to see the Nilgiri Tars, and obviously we went to go and watch some Kalari Payattu. Yeah? Next place, Kochi, yes, very obvious. And obviously here we went to see the local Kathakali performance. Absolutely stunning, such an experience, absolutely loved it. So, just a few months after that first visit to India, I returned to get married in India. And again, look how colourful our wedding was. The colours, the flowers, it's just such an experience. When I go to my Christian friends' weddings now, they just seem so dull. They're just wearing black and white, and it's all very sort of austere. But we had just like the most memorable wedding ever. And really my wedding was obviously like the first sort of introduction to Hinduism, I guess, at that point for me. So as I said at the beginning, what I'm going to be doing with you now is taking you on my journey to discovering Hinduism. And it is through my experiences of Bhakti Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga. And as I said, I'm not by any means an expert. I am just reflecting on what I felt on this journey. So Bhakti Yoga. I guess my introduction to Bhakti Yoga was actually the Amar Chitrakatha comics. We have a whole stack at home, and I still read them. And I must recommend that everyone in the room, for children's birthdays, gift them these books. They are excellent. I learned so much. We do. Whenever it's our niece's birthdays, we send these books. Please do it. We also together watched the Ramayana series. And through learning about all these stories, I really came to appreciate, again, how colourful and lively they are, but just how beautiful they are, and how they are so complete, how they reflect on every single relationship that you can imagine, between a husband and a wife, between a mother and the son, between an uncle and nephew, and how they reflect on all of nature as well. There are so many poetic references to everything in nature, to the trees, to the birds, to the fish. Everything is so complete. And it's also so eternal. There is nothing that I have come across where I thought, not in today's modern world. That doesn't really, doesn't work anymore. Whereas in Christianity, obviously, there's so much that just jars with what we know in the modern world today. I have not come across that in everything I've discovered in Hinduism. So as you can see, I've got a picture of Parsuram, and I'm sure everyone in the room will know why I put that on here for today. Obviously, in the Treta Yuga, he threw his axe into the waters, and from that, Kerala arose. And that is completely consistent with scientific evidence, where they find fossils dating to that exact period, showing that yes, there was a very acute event that suddenly caused the land of Kerala to emerge from the waters. So it's so consistent with science. And I put a picture of Hanumanji because he is my Ishtadev, and I thought, well, I can't put a picture of Bhakti Yoga without putting my Ishtadev there. So some more photos of my experience of Bhakti Yoga. So this is our mandir at home, in the top left corner, and our puja thali. And this is us, quite regularly, in our mandir doing puja. For Diwali last year, I had a go at Rangoli. It wasn't very good. Hopefully it'll be a better attempt this year. And then this in the centre here. Let me see if I can get this video to work. This was just a week and a half ago or so, obviously for Ma Kali here, Ma Durga. And as you can see, obviously revering the goddess. That's one of the things I really love about Hinduism, how we are celebrating the male energy and the female energy. And there's nothing more that represents that than I feel that little clip there. So one of the things I so love about Hinduism is how you can express your faith in so many different ways. Obviously, in Christianity, you go to church, you have someone talking at you, you maybe read your Bible a few pages every day, but that's kind of it. Whereas in Hinduism, there are so many different expressions of your faith. Yes, there is this universal code, I guess you can call it, of Dharma, that everything has to be consistent with. But as long as you are consistent with Dharma, there are so many ways to express your faith. And many people don't realize that Kalari Payattu, I hope I'm saying it right, Kalari Payattu is an expression of faith. You just saw there that they were praying at the beginning and the end of their session. It's in such contrast within the West, where people go into sport to win medals and to be the best. That's not what's crossing these people's minds. They are going as an expression of faith. Same for dance. It's not a form of entertainment. It is a form of expression of devotion to Bhagwan. It's just beautiful. So, the comparison. So, I'm sure everyone in the room is aware that in Christianity there is this, one of the core concept is that you are God-fearing because you don't want to go to hell. That is actually the essence of it, I feel. So you live your life trying to do what you can to avoid that really horrible fate for eternity after you've left this material world. And there is a male God who tells you how to live your life so that you avoid going to hell. And it is a bit sort of finger pointing at you. You must do this, you mustn't do that. So you live your life thinking, oh, I mustn't do this because otherwise I'll go to hell. Which is in such contrast with Hinduism, where you have this shining example of Dharma that you're trying to aspire to so that you can rise up. It's not so that you can be feared down to avoid hell. You're actively rising up so that you can try and reach moksha. It's such a more positive way of thinking. On a very practical level, it's a very positive way of thinking. So in addition to having instructions from the God, who is quite a jealous God, he doesn't want anyone else have anybody to be worshipping a different god, because otherwise you will be going to hell. That same dogma is passed down to people on earth, to priests who, again, you go to church and they're doing the same thing. They're telling you how and how not to live your life. It's not encouraging inquiry, debate, and yet Hinduism really does. As I said, there is Dharma, and there are many spiritual texts to kind of guide you. But it's up to you to work out your individual path so that you reach moksha. It's not, in many ways, I find that this is quite sort of infantile, because it's very sort of black and white, straightforward, here's what you do. Whereas Hinduism, I feel it's so much more intelligent. Now, I've taken a picture of our local church. As you can see, it's dark and dingy, so just returning to the idea of, I don't find that a very enjoyable experience. It's actually, kind of feeds into the whole oppression that I feel Christianity promotes. And then a picture of Galileo. So I'm sure many people in the room will know that he was a physicist, a mathematician from the 1500s who realized that the earth isn't flat. He made these observations. It was in complete contradiction with what he was being told. And he'll say, actually, guys, it's not flat, the world. It's the earth, it's round. And because he made that observation, he was put under house arrest. Now, he was actually one of the lucky ones. He actually survived. He was put under house arrest for treachery. But many others were not. They were hung. They were thrown into fire if they dared to make such a revelation. And again, that's just in such contrast to Hinduism, as I said, that encourages inquiry, that encourages scientific thinking, and I'll be talking much more about that later on. And I just want to make the point that the word religion comes from Latin. It means to bind. Now, I don't feel Hinduism binds. I don't feel I'm bound to anything. Whereas, obviously, in Christianity, you're bound to a book. So, for me, yes, Christianity definitely is religion. And yes, in today's modern world, we have to be thinking of Hinduism as a religion, but for me, it's so much more. Just a couple of other little points to raise about why I was so deterred from Christianity. That the idea that people in the Italian mafia committing terrible crimes, as long as they confessed, actually it was all absolved. And I just didn't feel that was right at all. Obviously in Hinduism that does not chime at all, that anything you do commit, that karma comes back to you. It's Newton's third law of motion, that every action has a reaction. You have to pay that back. And obviously there have been a lot of scandals in the church. Don't need to go into too much of them, but here we have a Catholic school, and this is obviously a global scandal that is really coming out in the media at the moment. And then the point that the mentality of Christianity and other large global faith is that, and it's actually summarized very nicely in this quote from Aristotle, plants exist for the sake of animals, and brute beasts for the sake of man, domestic animals for his use and food, wild ones for the accessories of life, such as clothing. And that is just not consistent with Hinduism at all, and it's not consistent with how the world should operate. I gave you a little clip there from when the British obviously were still in India, and in a 50-year period, one taxidermy shop in near Bengaluru, in their records, they had 25,000 tigers come in and 30,000 leopards come in. And it's because of that cheetahs are extinct in India, and elephants and rhinos and tigers are endangered. It is just not right. It's actually quite disgusting, I feel, that with the Western way of thinking, and Christianity has taken from that, been inspired from that the focus is always about humans. And it's not. We are just one of the things on the earth. There is so much more, and that's the way it should be. That is what's so wonderful about our earth, is the diversity, the beauty of diversity. And just a little point to make, that it's excellent what the awareness that is being raised about climate change and the environment. But again, in the West, it's very focused on so that it is a better world to live in for humans in future. But what about for the animals? That's eternal. It shouldn't be about us all the time. And I'm obviously not the only one who's had all of these feelings about Christianity, because if we can see the pink line is the percentage of the population going to church regularly, we're now at down like 4%, and the average age is nearly 60. So it really is dropping off a cliff. And yet, we look at India, where orange is Hinduism. Just see how large that orange is there, and compare that particularly against other parts of the world that have been colonized. So we can look at Africa, we can look at America, South America. They all had their own native faiths before the colonizers came. And look, they're all blue, Christian, or green, Muslim. Look at India. It really stands out. But I'm not saying that the conversion efforts that are going on in India are not terrible. They really are. But I don't think we applaud and celebrate enough just how resilient Hinduism is. And I think that really is, it does demonstrate the strength of faith that people have. Because billions and billions of dollars are being pumped in to try and convert it. So we really must celebrate ourselves. Okay, moving on from Bhakti Yoga to Raja Yoga. So everything in Hinduism, as I said, is up for an individual to experience in their own way. And it is absolutely fine that one person's Ishtadev is Hanumanji, and another person's Ishtadev is Lakshmiji, Ma Lakshmi. Equally, it is fine for some people to resonate more with Jnana Yoga and others to resonate more with Bhakti Yoga. So Raja Yoga I have experienced, but not maybe to such an extent as Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. But in my case, what it has done is I took the Shambhavi Mahamudra course with Sadhguru when he came to London a few years ago, and started doing yoga asanas as well as Shambhavi Mahamudra. Now, before doing that, I was plagued with terrible, terrible chronic migraine. And after having done Shambhavi Mahamudra very conscientiously for 60 days, actually my migraines massively reduced. And in fact, they're almost disappeared now. And I really do credit my experience of Raja Yoga for that. And since then, my husband and I, we've gone to visit the Isha Ashram. And I must recommend everyone to go if you haven't already. And Jnana Yoga. So I do feel I really resonate with Jnana Yoga. As you heard earlier, I am a scientist, and I feel it is very consistent with science. So firstly, Jnana Yoga, I just love how, compared to Christianity, where you have this God who is separate from you and everyone else is living in fear, I just love how in Hinduism, Aham Brahmasmi, we are all Brahman, Tattvam Asvi. We are all that. There is no separation between us. The love of the consciousness of the world is within all of us. It is so inclusive. Compared to Christianity, which is dividing God from people, and between people will go to heaven and people will go to hell, Hinduism is saying that everyone is saved. Everyone will eventually reach moksha. They're just taking their own journey there. I find that just so beautiful. So moving on then to the science of this. It's very clear from what I know so far about the Vedas that Hinduism promotes that energy and matter are not separate. They are completely interchangeable. And to me, that is E equals mc squared, is it not? So once again, science is corroborating what is written in the Vedas. And I'm sure many of you will know that actually quantum theory is very consistent with the Vedas, and in fact has inspired some of the founders of quantum theory. So here we have Schrödinger, one of the grandfathers of quantum theory. He he admitted that he was inspired by Vedanta when conceptualizing wave-particle duality. And in fact, the idea that Hinduism, I feel, is like science plus plus. If you think of Christianity as being a very rigid dogma, science as being observing the world going on and drawing conclusions from that material, those observations of the material world, Hinduism, I feel, is that you are experiencing your interaction with Brahman, and from that you are able to make observations on the world, on the material world. And in fact, that is consistent with what happened, where the rise of Hinduism came. That the rishis were sort of divinely gifted through their yoga practice. They were divinely gifted this knowledge, the Vedas. And it is for that reason that they were able to make observations on the material world, the Maya in which we now live, that are now being corroborated through modern-day science. So the fact that the Earth is round, that the distance between the Earth and the Sun, all of these things, the age of the universe, these are all things that they observed, and through modern-day science we are now corroborating. Just a little mention, obviously, about Kerala in science. I'm sure many of you will know about the Kerala School of Mathematics and Astronomy, and just about how many amazing discoveries came from Kerala. So for example, pi, the number pi, 3.142, blah, blah. In the Kerala School of Mathematics and Astronomy, they got it correct to 11 decimal places back in the 14th to 16th century. They were also derived the expressions, the power series for the geometric infinite series, and expressions for the series of various trigonometric functions at least 2 centuries before they were rediscovered in the West. In fact, many of the functions that we know now as Euler, that I learned in my physics degree, they actually are credited to these people centuries before they were discovered by Euler. And I feel that one of the reasons why this was able to happen in Kerala is, firstly, they weren't being hounded by a dogmatic faith. They were given that freedom to explore, but also because Hinduism, I feel, actually it gives you a different perspective on the world to allow you to think in a slightly abstract way. And that is why I really honestly feel that it will be Hindus who solve the biggest remaining challenges in physics in the future. I honestly believe that. And just a little mention about how Gyan Yoga really helped me on a personal level. So, as you saw earlier, I've always been quite a resilient, fulfilled person, and very happy person. But I honestly feel that Gyan Yoga has taken me to a new level that I never thought could even exist when it comes to sort of practical mental resilience. And I think that's partly because Hinduism thinks in such massive timescales that you realize actually your role in this is quite small. Everything that happens to you, it's much easier to brush it off compared to a Christian who feels you're only put on this earth for those 70, 80 years. You have to fulfill everything in your life in those 70, 80 years, otherwise you're a failure. That concept doesn't exist in Hinduism because we'll come back. The large timescales, the fact that we come back, we are reborn, we have lifetimes to reach the ultimate understanding. And I last year stopped my previous job and set up my own little company. And I feel that actually I couldn't have taken that step. And I must say it's an award-winning company, so it's really something I'm proud about. I couldn't have taken that step, I don't feel, if I didn't have the mental strength that I had gained through Gyan Yoga, particularly from watching I've forgotten his name. Sorry, everyone in the room. Thank you. Sorry, it's just gone on my head. From watching him at night, I really felt that it infused into me that knowledge, and it just kind of resonated with me. So I found it very empowering. Now, as I'm sure you all know, Hinduism doesn't convert. And actually, I feel that's a real shame, but I'm not saying that we have to go and do that. But given my experience, everything I have benefited from Hinduism, I feel that the world could benefit so much from becoming Hindu. So in the UK at the moment, 1 in 8 UK school children have a mental health illness. This terrible, shocking statistic that 53% of the UK's teenage girls try to commit suicide. That's an NHS statistic. That is, terrifying. But I feel had Hinduism, if they were open to exploring Hinduism, that number could drastically drop down. And you can see that Christianity really isn't resonating with these people. Look, 72% of the youth say they are now atheist. But just imagine how much better, how much happier, how much more well-being they would have if instead they maybe became Hindu. So I'm just bringing this slide up one more time to just emphasize the point about how resilient India has been to all of these efforts to convert it from Christianity, from Islam. And it's not at all to undermine how much of a fight we need to have to stop that orange getting any smaller. We each need to take that mission to make sure that orange doesn't get any smaller. And obviously that orange is a different size across different parts of India. I'm very aware of that. So, yes, I said everyone needs to take that mission to make sure that Hinduism stays strong. And if anything, it grows. Now, what I'm doing is I have my own social media presence. I talk at these kind of events to try and promote Hinduism. And I feel that everyone should be doing their thing to do the same. So if you, for example, go on to English Behen Gadil Say, you'll see that I make many videos that try to appeal particularly to the youth, challenging some of the misunderstandings around Hinduism that are just falsities, and really promoting everything, all the positives of Hinduism, and it is a very, very positive thing. So please, if you have time, please do go and subscribe, watch some of my videos. You might learn a few things. Normally my speeches are very filled with facts. This speech is quite different because it's about me, but hopefully you'll learn a lot. So yes, I think everyone should awaken the Mahashakti within them. We all need to be battling to fight the adversities of Adharma. And that is my speech. Thank you very much. I hope you found it useful or interesting to hear. Maybe it's something completely different to anything you've ever heard before. Coming from outside and seeing Hinduism in this way is probably very different from how perhaps you see it because you were born in it. That's what you know. But that's been my very honest experience. So I hope you found it interesting. Bahut dhanyavad. Jai Shri Ram.